Have a drink or whatever you did, you and Herschel ride home and you start talking, wild stuff. You know what I mean? So that theory, that alone, that just felt, and he could have took it himself, but it was always somebody was there, somebody put something in his drink, and that's what happened. So it's crazy, you know what I mean? It's crazy, the way that jumped off, and it shouldn't have. Once we get more into it, there are so many different things that could have been avoided to not have this tragedy happen. First of all, so he goes on the ward. Once they do the cast, he goes on the ward. He's kind of still, acting, still doing things with like this running water. And there was another patient there. I'm gonna read it so it can make sense. So by the time he moved to the surgical ward too, there were 24 other patients recovering, separating them by sheets. Around 3:30, the psychologists had been summoned to examine him because of his behavior, and guards employed by the hospital had been watching him carefully all day. This was not particularly usual. Other patients, a white man named John Condon, had also been acting strangely all day, according to one nurse, who suggested Condon, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, had been seen by the hospital's psychiatric service. Now, amongst the other patients at the Boston City Hospital surgical ward that day was a guy named Abdullah Hassan, who was being guarded by a Boston police patrolman named Walter Dugan. Now, Hassan was recovering from a knife wound sustained during an alleged robbery around 5:30, dinner time for the patients. So he was, okay, the prisoner was there for being stabbed in a robbery or something. So around 5:30, dinner time for the patients, Lynch was clowning around the ward, picking up other patients' charts and pretending to read them as if he was a doctor. Condon, the patient who had been observing behaving erratically, got up from a seat near a window, followed Lynch chirping at him. The two had strong enough words where the police officer, Dugan, came and separated him. Afterwards, Duggan walked Condon back to his bed. Duggan's prisoner, Hassan, was in bed just a few yards away. Now, that right there is one of the things that shouldn't have even have took place. They shouldn't even have had that prisoner in that ward with the cop with the gun right there. It just shouldn't have happened. And the reason it happened, and I believe this is from Carly and Eli's research, was the nurse. It was a nurse that either went on break or went somewhere and asked Dugan to watch the ward while she'd be right back. So, come on. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. So, a bit later, Lynch was annoying a nurse again by pretending to be a doctor. This time he was counting the push cart. When she asked him to stop, Lynch tried to push the cart out of the room, which at one point, Condon came back and squared up to fight Lynch again. Lynch, who took a hand towel from over his shoulder and swung it at Codon, dug and yelled into the confrontation and shoved the men away, pushing each other, pushing Codon so hard that he fell and broke his leg. By chance, a legendary reporter from the Boston Globe, Robert Anglin, was lying in recovery, and intently watching all of this unfold. Now, what he said, this is his words, and I'm gonna put up the actual some of the clippings and all of that other stuff. So the cop pushed Lynch, turned half around facing away from him, drew his pistol and raised it eye level. He aimed it down the end of the ward out of my sight and basically pointed his gun toward Hassan, the prisoner, who stepped away from the hospital bed. "Get back, I'll shoot," he said. The gun was not yet pointed at Lynch's direction. The cop let his gun hand drop, still rigid, and made a quarter turn toward Lynch. Lynch took a swipe at the gun with his towel, and the cop raised the weapon and fired once, then 3 times, then once again. Lynch did not move at all when the first shots hit. After the last shot hit, he collapsed into a pool of blood. Patients and hospital staff looked on. Another man in the ward, 61-year-old Edward Crowley, the father of a Boston police officer, was hit by one of the bullets. That was crazy. So the guy was just shooting. The nurse attempted to attend my cousin, but the cop, gun still drawn, screamed at her to keep away, right then and there. Now, you got a dislocated shoulders. The shoulder, your arms behind your back. You got one good arm. That's it. You want one good arm. You got a towel and one good arm. One shot, but you're gonna shoot 3-4 times. And then when nurses try to help, you won't let them. Come on, man. That's some bullshit, B. Some fuck shit. He actually screamed at her to keep away. The nurse told the cop she thought Lynch was dead, but he insisted that the motionless figure lying in a pool of blood was still somehow dangerous. Minutes later, a bunch of doctors and police officers came into the ward, and my cousin was pronounced dead at 6:05 p.m. It's crazy. There was witnesses. It was a diagram. It was so bad that you had their own hospital workers. A lot of them walked out because they were trying to boycott and trying to make a change where no guns should even be on certain wards, man. That shouldn't be. So then we get the call later on that this happened. And that just, so this is why it's hard for anybody else to talk about, because it hurts. It was tragic. It was one of the worst things that ever happened to our family. You know what I mean? And if that was to happen today, it would be an uproar. Roxbury, the city of Boston, black man, the clippings and the stuff I'm gonna put up there was crazy. I remember, once we did get there, people were coming to my grandmother's house. It was just, I remember the Black Panthers being there. I remember, I could still smell the leather. They all had leather. I remember, sitting there, not really understanding, but knowing it was something deep. Then they had these posters of the cop, that it was really wrong what they did to my cousin. And city offered some shit that didn't go through the trial, and of course they acquitted the cop. They didn't even charge, that they didn't, judge was basically, he was threatening. He had to, if the judge was basically saying that the cop had to do that. If the cop didn't do that, he would have been embarrassed or some weird bullshit, some dumb shit, man. Some shit. So it just was wrong, man. It was just bullshit, man. So like I said, if that's what had happened in this present day, it'd have been riots. It would have been some wild shit, man, because it was, that cop the fucker went on to do some other shit at some college. Read the article that Carly and Eli put together, Boston Magazine. It's deep. Let me give you the title, and I'll put the links up so you'll know. It's called The Police Shooting That Boston Forgot. 50 years ago, rising social sensation Franklin Lynch was shot dead by a police officer at Boston City Hospital. The killing of an unarmed man and its cover-up inspired Boston's Black community to invent a new form of civil justice. Why doesn't anybody remember? And we want to celebrate him, his music, his song, his voice. I remember him saying, but not cocky though, but just saying, and I'm gonna make a song, I'm gonna make a record, and being so happy, man. So let's keep his legacy alive, his music, Jeff, keep getting it out there, man, in different movies and other shit, man. But Eli thinks again, Carly thinks again. But he was a good people, man. Good-hearted person. You know what I mean? And he wrote songs, man. So it's a good thing him and Herschel met. It's a good thing Skippy White met. It just happened because it was something that he wanted. And he definitely had the talent. So, cuz I try my best, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make this happen, man. Once again, thanks for supporting the Franklin Lynch Foundation. My name is Joe Nip, professionally known as Nip Life. Stay tuned for some new music, and love life and justice. Peace.